Alrighty, welcome. Happy Friday, my friends. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us on another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. Today's episode, this is kind of a creepy number, but it's 666. So if you guys want to grab the show notes or the links to anything that we talk about on today's show, just go to extremehealthradio.com/666. A little creepy, but it is what it is. So I hope you guys are enjoying all of our shows that we do. If you're new to our work, we do shows 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time, live here on YouTube. So if you have ever wanted to ask a guest a question or anything like that, feel free to join us. And that way we'll do our best to ask your questions to all of our guests. We do our best to do that. So let me see, any other groundwork to get to? Oh yeah, let me give you a little preview of some of our upcoming shows here. So let's see. Let me bring this up on the screen so you guys can take a look on YouTube. It is today, Dr. Sam Berne. We're going to be talking about holistic eye care. We get a lot of questions about this, so this is going to be really, really great. If you know of anybody that has vision or eye problems, have them watch this or listen to this show. Very, very awesome. So hopefully it can help them a lot. On Monday, Dr. Michael Goldberg will be talking about preventing chronic disease. And then on Wednesday of next week, we're going to have Amy Pearl, Dr. Pearl. This will be her second time on. We'll talk with her about microbes, biofilms, infections, viruses. The first show that we did with her was incredibly informative. I have to say, it's one of the most informative shows I've ever been a part of, and it was amazing. So we invited her to be back on to get to the bottom of all of that. Next Friday, we have Alan Phillips. We're going to be talking with him again for the second time about vaccines. He's a lawyer. I think he's out in North Carolina suing the North Carolina State Bar over vaccines, and so that was going to be a really great show. A lot of really cool people coming up, so if you guys want to make sure you don't miss an episode, wherever you're listening or watching right now, make sure to subscribe, and you'll get access to all the content that we're putting out for free for everybody. So hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Today, we've got Dr. Sam Berne, and this is going to be cool because we get a lot of questions about eye health, vision, corrective problems, macular degeneration, glaucoma, myopia, all kinds of eye issues. And so this is going to be really, really great. He's in private practice in New Mexico, and he's been doing that for 25 years. And he works with patients to improve their vision. But what I love about him is that he's working on a holistic model. So he's not just pumping drugs and chemicals into people. He's really working at the holistic level naturally. So this is going to be really, really cool. Let me bring him up on the show and introduce him here. Just a second. Let me turn his microphone on. There we go. Dr. Berne, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was saying at the beginning that we get this question so often. It seems like eye and vision problems are coming up. More and more people are having problems. My mom right now is dealing with. I think she has I can't remember if it's a wet or dry macular degeneration, but it seems like everyone I talk to has vision problems. Are you seeing like a insurgence of this?
Oh my, it's just growing. I think part of it is the toxicity in our environment.
Uh huh.
I think that it's the stress from all the digital time we're using. And, I think in general eye care, I don't think we're really teaching patients how to be proactive. We're just reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And my mission is to create proactivity and teach people how to improve their vision. And I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah, you've been at it for 25 years, and you said before we started the show that you were just completely passionate about this, and it's amazing that you're still so passionate after 25 years. You must have helped a lot of people.
I have, and I'm kind of the court of last resort where
Uh-huh.
people have been other places and they can't get answers. And studying things like acupuncture, naturopathy, herbs, essential oils, nutrition, body work. The eyes are such an interrelated, interconnected part of our body. It just makes sense that we can do some natural things to reverse these problems.
It sure does. And so tell people a little bit about your story because it is quite intriguing and fascinating as I've done quite a bit of research on you. But tell people a little bit about how you got into all of this. I think it's pretty fascinating.
Well, I got into this when I was about 8 years old, and I was diagnosed with a learning disability. I had difficulty reading, and my mom took me everywhere, and we ended up at an eye doctor's office, and he gave me a prescription for nearsightedness. It didn't help my learning disability.
Hmm.
So I went through school. I was a memorizer, and I kept getting progressively more myopic, had astigmatism. And when I graduated optometry school, I met a holistic eye doctor and I entered his physical eye therapy program. And he told me two things. The first thing is that my learning problem was because I had a condition called convergence insufficiency, which meant my two eyes didn't work together. And through the physical eye therapy, I was able to heal that. And then the second thing that he said was that I could reverse my myopia, which I did 100%. And so I was so jazzed by this. And I went back to my school and I said, hey, guys and gals, I was able to heal my vision. And they said, well, this is purely anecdotal. We're in a disease based model.
Uh-huh.
We can't really hear this. So I opened a practice and I started seeing people and I was just counseling them about diet and nutrition, and their cataracts would go away and their macular degeneration would go away. And I started working with kids with autism and ADD, and I applied the physical eye therapy approach to these kids, and they became great at school. I worked with people who had traumatic brain injury and saw double vision all the time. And I
Wow.
applied my physical eye therapy, color therapy, nutrition, and they'd
Uh-huh.
be back at work. They could drive again. They could be functional. So this just was amazing that I learned this, and I was blessed with going through this healing with my eyes at a very early time in my career. And I decided that I was going to commit my practice fully to holistic eye care.
Now the question is, what did your colleagues think at that time? Did they think you were a bit nuts?
Well, there's two parts to that. You know, a lot of my teachers were holistic eye doctors, and they were the old school.
Okay.
And so I studied and learned a lot from them. But in the conventional allopathic ophthalmology and optometry,
Hmm.
we're so indoctrinated in the disease based model. We're basically looking for disease as soon as you walk into the office. So I was definitely, shown the door and, said, you're not really part of our profession. But over time, because I've, done research, I've written books, I've lectured, I think that the professions are starting to come around and at least they're recognizing there might be another alternative to surgery and pharmaceuticals.
So surgery and pharmaceuticals, well, I guess it depends on what condition you're dealing with, right? I mean, I guess, but one of those two things is going to be the preferred method of choice, right? To treat someone with whatever their eye condition is, isn't it?
Well, it depends. I certainly have used pharmaceuticals in my practice. I believe that holism is embracing both allopathic and complementary therapies, but I'm always looking at what's the mechanism, what's the way that helps a person connect to their eyes and vision so that they can get better.
Hmm.
And yes, maybe they need to do pharmaceuticals, maybe they even need to do surgery, but there are things you can do before, during, and after to reduce the side effects of these invasive procedures. And then you may get people that start doing the holistic practices and they don't need surgery, they don't need drugs. I mean, we can get into cases with glaucoma and cataracts and macular degeneration. I'm having phenomenal success with helping people reverse these conditions without having to go through these invasive procedures.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because those three that you just mentioned, I guess you could throw myopia in there as well, but it seems like those three are the big ones in our culture. I'd love to learn more about those myself. Can we go into
Yeah,
maybe each one of those things and just sort of talk for a couple minutes about what they are and what the general treatments are, and then what you might, work with someone to overcome them? So let's start with like I mentioned before, my mom has macular degeneration. Let's start with that one and sort of discuss what it is and what the difference between wet and dry is and all that.
okay, sure. So the retina has one of the highest metabolic needs of the body, and the macula has the highest metabolic need of the retina. Now, there are no blood vessels that run through the macula, so the macula is relying on its nutrient support indirectly. So it's very vulnerable to getting things like oxidative stress, free radical damage. And today, because of well, again, we can go into things like toxicity and stress and lifestyle and so on. But in
Hmm.
macular degeneration, the dry kind, we are getting oxidative stress that accumulates there and it begins to distort our vision. Now, sometimes the dry macular degeneration can turn into the wet macular degeneration, which is more serious. And in this condition, there's fluid, there's edema that builds up behind the eye, behind the macula. And part of it is because the macula is trying every which way to get more nutrient absorption, specifically the carotenoids lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin.
Hmm.
These are pigments that the macula needs to protect against the blue light damage from digital and sun and
Hmm.
ultraviolet light. So there are things that you can do to reverse macular degeneration, even in the wet kind, but it takes an approach where we have to look at systemic and metabolic health, dietary absorption, inflammation in the body, stress, trauma, toxicity, and then there are very specific targeted things you can do for eye nutrients. I have something called Msm Eyedrops. And MSM, as you may know, is a sulfur based eye drop, and it's wonderful for the eyes. It improves the collagen health, reduces inflammation, moisturizes the eyes. And so, using MSM eye drops, using high powered nutrient support, whether that's through diet or supplements, where you're really getting lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, zinc, other trace minerals like chromium, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin C, fats and oils. And there are physical eye therapy exercises that you can use to actually improve macular degeneration and improve overall the visual function.
Hmm.
In the allopathic approach, the only thing that they can offer you in the wet macular degeneration is injections. And I think in the short term, they may be helpful, but there are a lot of side effects to these drugs, and it's really just treating a symptom. So I tend to look at the cause, what's causing the macular starvation. And once I find that out, then I offer people the missing links, and they can improve and reverse macular degeneration.
Wow. And so, what about for the dry, for the conventional eye doctor? Do they do this injections for the dry as well, or just for the wet?
No, what's really interesting about our profession is that when most people go to an eye exam and the doctor finds dry macular degeneration, what
Hmm.
they usually say is, let's just watch it. Let's just monitor it.
Right.
And it's a very passive approach to it. Now, if the dry macular degeneration, there's something called drusen, which are these fatty deposits, and if they start infringing on the macula, again, sometimes there can be some laser procedures or more invasive things that they might do.
Hmm.
But it's interesting that we're just taught to say, we'll watch it, we'll monitor it, and there's not really anything you can do.
Huh.
The wet kind is a little more aggressive, where again they'll do injections or laser surgery because that can be a little more serious. But one of the things I've discovered about wet macular degeneration is that people may be suffering mold in their body, and this could lead to wet macular degeneration or dairy. If they go off dairy products, that the macula, the edema can go away.
Interesting.
Also, there can be a precursor to diabetes. So if they've got glucose levels that are out of whack, this can also lead to wet macular degeneration. So there's a lot of systemic and metabolic connections to our macula. I'll add one more. In studying Chinese medicine, we know that the internal organ that connects to the eyes is the liver. And if you improve your liver qi, if you do a detox, if you get some acupuncture, you can actually reduce macular degeneration by getting acupuncture.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that doesn't surprise me at all, because we talk a lot about the connection between the whole body connection, like you work with different parts of the body connecting to the other parts. I'm curious when it comes to these types of conditions, like you mentioned astaxanthin, you mentioned lutein, some of these really, really powerful antioxidants. I'm curious, do they work on the same level for something like glaucoma, both wet and dry macular degeneration, myopia, cataracts? Like, are all of those things still good for those other conditions as well?
Yes, they are, but in glaucoma, this is a vascular disease in the eye, and there's two issues. Either we're not producing enough fluid in the eye, or there's an impediment in the circulation. And there can be contributing factors to oxidative stress, head trauma, pharmaceutical drugs that we've taken that can actually drive up our eye pressure, like steroids, as an example. Even heavy metal toxicities can show a glaucoma pattern that maybe not even be a real glaucoma pattern. The
Hmm.
key in glaucoma is you want to protect the optic nerve. And the best way to do that is make sure you're getting enough healthy fats and oils into your body, especially omega 3, the DHA of omega 3. There's research that connects these omega 3 fatty acids and improving optic nerve health. Certainly, the nutrients that I spoke about are helpful, but we may need to look at some other more specific things for glaucoma. But generally speaking, if you're getting, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, quercetin, bilberry, taurine is actually very good as an amino acid for glaucoma, and then your trace minerals, you have a good chance of at least neutralizing the glaucoma pattern, because all they have to offer you are the eye drops, which have a load of side effects, and or surgery, laser surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I like to do with glaucoma is craniosacral therapy. So, because if you can improve the circulation in the brain and the eyes, I studied craniosacral about 20 years ago. I'm a craniosacral therapist. And so when I measure somebody's eye pressure and then I do an hour of craniosacral, actually their eye pressure will go down. I just
Interesting.
posted a research study on mindful meditation and glaucoma that when people practiced mindful meditation, their eye pressure went down about 6 millimeters. So there's lots of different things that you can go into with glaucoma,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a sight-threatening disease that a lot of fear is produced in these eye doctors' offices. And I think that I look at more of it as what's good and what can we make better, and it's a wellness paradigm, not a
Mm.
disease-based fear paradigm,
I
and
like
that's the
that.
difference.
Yeah, because you're of the opinion, right, that and so am I, that just about everything can be reversed. I just really believe that, and I think that's something that I think it's a belief that we all have to have if we want to be, have a foundation to start from, right? That we can reverse these things, right?
And if we go back very early at conception, prenatally, we can see that the eyes are growing out from the brain. And so every tissue of the eyeball originates from the brain. So this puts us in the category of neuroplasticity, neurogenesis. The brain, as we know from the neuroscientists, can create new pathways, can regenerate. And I did a blog on Mind Body Green about a year and a half ago, and I listed some of the research that's being done in ocular regeneration, everything from stem cell therapy to other kinds of therapies. And you're probably going to see over the next 3 to 5 years that eye doctors will acknowledge that there could be some ocular regeneration through some of these procedures. Up to now, the company line is it's only going to get worse because of aging and there's nothing you can do. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not really where it is. Yes, to the eye. Hey, very good. And that particular blog, I received an incredible response because I was relating it to Alzheimer's. And, the eyes kind of show us our future health. We can look into the retina and we can see diabetic retinopathy maybe showing, diabetes showing up, or Alzheimer's showing up, or Parkinson's. And so we can also, at that same time, we can offer the eyes some very important nutrients. So at the very least, they can, neutralize some of the deterioration that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk about cataracts because this is one that's really interesting. So what a cataract is it's metabolic waste that accumulates in the lens of the eye, free radicals.
Okay.
The lens is like the cornea and like the macula. It's called an avascular tissue where it relies on its nutrient support indirectly. So the lens of the eye can become very vulnerable to this metabolic waste that accumulates, which is turning into a cataract.
Mm-hmm.
So the good news is that in my protocol, you can use Msm Eyedrops, homeopathic eye drops that actually dissolve cataracts. There's a correlation between low glutathione levels in the body and the development of cataracts. There's
Mm-hmm.
also research out there that low vitamin C levels in the body, you have a higher risk of developing cataracts.
Mm.
So cataracts respond really well to nutrient absorption, nutrients. I think people that are low in sulfur-based vegetables and glutathione foods, and also, again, go back to lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin.
Uh-huh.
There's some really good potential in reversing cataracts and not needing the surgery.
Yeah, that's really, really hopeful for people. That's awesome. I've heard with cataracts, there's a connection, or some people have said they think or know that there's a connection between what they call calcification or displaced calcium in the body.
Mhm.
And is that sort of a part of the metabolic waste that is not being able to be exited through the body, storing itself in the eyes? Is part of the issue with cataracts, do you think, calcium?
I think calcium is definitely part of it. There are ions in the lens of the eye that use water to push metabolic waste out of the lens, and that water flow then brings nutrients into the lens. So,
Uh-huh.
whether you're talking about calcium or you're talking about heavy metals or just overall, let's say your glucose levels are high, this is another causative factor of this metabolic waste accumulating in the lens of the eye. So, yes, in all of these cases, we're looking at free radical damage, and there isn't enough mitochondria energy to push these free radicals out of the lens, and this is the beginning of cataracts.
Yes, interesting, fascinating stuff. So, with cataracts, is the normal procedure just to remove the cataract through a surgery?
Yeah, and it's a very safe surgery. It's a great surgery if you have to have it. But the thing that you want to know is that if you're going to do cataract surgery, you don't want to have the lenses put into your eye where one eye is corrected for distance and one eye is corrected for near. That splits the brain and that's going to create a double vision effect. It's very confusing.
Hmm.
Or another technique the surgeon will use is using bifocal contact lenses. These are also very confusing for people. I recommend if they're going to get cataract surgery that they want to correct both eyes for distance and just use reading glasses. But this is the most important point, Justin, that I'm going to make. It's really critical. The lens of our eye, our original hardware, has a pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. But those plastic lenses that they put in the eye do not have the pigment that blocks the damaging blue light. So when people get the cataract surgery, then they're more susceptible to getting macular degeneration because that blue light can damage the macula. So they need to wear blue blocking lenses and protect their eyes because these plastic lenses leave you wide open to be vulnerable to get the damage from the blue light.
So interesting. So, when most people do most optometrists do the surgery in the way that you mentioned, where it creates an issue in the brain, or do most optometrists do it the way you said, where you optimize the eye for far vision and then just wear reading glasses?
Well, unfortunately, in our field, both optometry and ophthalmology, the way we've been trained with our eyes is that it's a mechanical optics problem.
Uh huh.
So we're not thinking about it from a functional point of view. We're just thinking about correcting the optics in that one position.
I see.
So there isn't the awareness of what we're doing to the brain because most of us haven't been taught about the functional part of it. So this is why I have to educate people to go into their surgeon and say, nope, I just want both eyes corrected for distance. I don't want one corrected for distance and near. because they don't know that it's damaging. They don't know that it's going to be very confusing. So this is why if people are going to get cataract surgery, I have to educate them on how to navigate the maze so that they get the best thing possible and they optimize the surgery.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder why you said vitamin C and glutathione. Like, why are we getting cataracts? Do you think it's because, I mean, it can't be that we don't have, I mean, we don't, human beings typically don't, as far as my understanding goes, create vitamin C in their bodies. That's why we have to take it exogenously. But what's going wrong in our culture, do you think, that we're low on these substances that would prevent maybe something like a cataract? Like, what's going wrong in the way we're living, do you think?
Well, I think it's the exposure to pesticides, glyphosate. I think that we could get into a whole discussion about the microbiome in the gut.
Hmm.
It could be dental care and all the mercury amalgams that we have in our mouth. It could be unresolved traumas, stress, digital time. I mean, you name it. It's just the speed and compression in our culture, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system where we rejuvenate, where we heal. We're not sleeping well. We're exposed to all this blue light. So take your pick. There's probably, with all the people you have on your show, you could probably put that together and say, well, these are contributing factors in why our eyes are letting us down. It's
Yeah.
all of the above and more.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is more and more, I would imagine, with screen time and people looking at this high frequency blue light, like you mentioned, causing damage to the eyes. I mean, that's got to play a role too.
It does play a role. And let's say we go to the doctor. This is another issue is, we go to the doctor for the exam and we're in the dark room and he says, which is clear, one or two. And you choose number two and you get a lens and you go back and say, this is making me dizzy. And the doctor says, don't worry, you'll get used to it. So you have to torque your eyes through this very tight lens. Let's say you're having a bad day when you
Hmm.
made the choice. So now you're wearing a lens that's shutting down your vision even more. And then you've got people in progressive lenses, which are the invisible bifocals, and that tunnels and narrows your vision. That can also be a cause of macular degeneration because the only part of the eye you're using is the macula. The only part of the lens that's usable is a very tiny thread down the middle. So the bigger the you look through, the more relaxed your eyes are going to be. So you've got the optical systems you're looking through, and then, as you say, the screen time. When people use their digital device at night in dim light, the pupils dilate more. And so more of that blue light is going to get in because of the dilated pupil. But they're not using blue blockers and they're not, you know, doing eye supplements or eating foods that protect their eyes. So this blue light, it's a chaotic, very fast wavelength. It's going to damage the tissue in our eyes, no question about it.
Hmm. So between myopia, glaucoma, macular degeneration, and cataracts, which one do you see a resurgence in? Which one do you think is the one that's affecting the most amount of people, do you think?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I think cataracts and macular degeneration are running neck and neck. You can read different statistics in the World Health Organization, and more people are going blind from these conditions. The thing about myopia is that we want to blame everything on genetics because my dad was nearsighted, I'm nearsighted, and
Right.
we know that environment is actually informing our genes. And so myopia is actually a response to our world where we're pulling it in, we're tightening it up. And like what happened to me, I basically, my mind started to tell my eyes, I'm afraid, I don't know what's going on, I'm tightening up. And then the eye doctor just validates my programming. And so I keep getting a stronger and stronger lens, which is embedding my programming. Myopia is not just in the eyeball, but it's in our whole body. It's in our thinking, our movement, our posture, our emotional responses. And the lens we get is basically just tightening us up. And it actually makes us very hypervigilant in our eyes. And this hypervigilance starts to shut down the circulation in the eyes. and the lymph in the eyes. And so then there's a starvation in the eye tissue, and this creates oxidative stress. So take your pick, whether it's macular degeneration, glaucoma, cataracts, myopia, our eye tissues are starving for nutrients, and there could be other reasons why, but if we increase the nutrient absorption in the eyes, our eyes are going to get better.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's just having that as your thesis is so important. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now, but when we come back from the break, I want to take some questions from our chat room. And if you guys have any questions, do me a favor. If you guys, whoops, let me turn that down. If you guys have any questions in the chat room, could you do me a favor and type them in all caps so that I can see them and make sure to ask the question to Dr. Sam Berne. Really, really fascinating show. Eye health is so critical, especially if we want to live a long, healthy, disease-free life and be able to have vision for all the days of our life. Super critical. It's funny with all the different things that we have in today's culture that are impacting our health. Like I was telling you guys on one of our recent shows, they're installing a 5G tower near our home, and there's so many things coming at us. And one of the things that I sort of do on a daily basis is I rebound. I jump up and down, and I'll bring this on if you guys are watching on YouTube. This is our Bellicon rebounder, and this is a full body, what they call cellular exercise. And so most people don't realize that we have more lymphatic fluid in our body than we do blood. But unfortunately, you don't really hear doctors talk much about the lymph system and the lymph fluid and what it's doing. But, if you go into the doctor and you're sick, they'll always check your lymph nodes around your neck, around your groin, around your armpits to make sure none of them are swollen. And there's a lot of insurgence of lymphatic cancers like lymphomas and things. And so jumping up and down every day on a mini trampoline like the Bellicon is one of the best things that you can do. It's a cellular exercise. It's the only exercise that uses G-force and gravity in different positions to be able to apply that kind of pressure to every single cell of the body. And what's cool about it, too, the way it affects the lymph system is that there's no pump for your lymph system like there is for your blood. Some people would argue the heart is not a pump either. We had a guest, Dr. Thomas Cowan, who wrote a whole book on that. But the lymph system definitely doesn't have a pump, and it's only moved through manual stimulation. So you can go jogging and things like this, but the problem with that is that the impact on your joints over time is going to be really an issue. The jumping up and down, though, is tremendous for you because you're jumping, I think, like you get 2 or 3 jumps every second or something like that. It's pretty tremendous exercise to do. And let me just bring up a little clip here from one of our previous guests talking about the rebound. Actually, this is Dr. Randy Tent. He was just on recently.
Absolutely. But before I answer that question, you guys are giving such great advice. There's a Bellicon trampoline right behind my desk here, and I go straight to hockey from here. I've been skating with a bunch of guys for a long time, and this guy cornered me one day after I've been skating 6-7 years with these guys, and he said, "Randy, can I talk to you for a second?" I said, "Yeah, what's the matter?" Yeah, I was waiting for a heart question, some complicated health question. He said,
Right.
How do you skate like you do at this age? You skate like an animal. I said, "I've been on a trampoline for 42 years. And one guy said, "Aren't those bad for you? Your kids will get hurt." I said, "That's why your kid can't chew gum and walk." I said, "I raised my kids on a trampoline."
Right.
So you're giving great advice. And I'm going to tell you right now, in the middle of Michigan's winter, the people with the best balance have survived the falls very well. Oh. And the balance that I've gotten from the trampoline and the sturdiness to play hockey with the right supplements, that's how I survived playing 4 games a week at 61. Because the trampoline has kept me tight enough to handle this journey, and it adds a density to your body that you're not going to get at the gym.
That's for sure. I love working out myself. I'm a big workout guy. I try to do all my workouts outside these days in the full spectrum sun. But the Bellicon rebounder, I'm telling you guys, is one of the best investments you can have in your home. You can do it while the kids are sleeping. It's silent, has foldable legs so that you can just fold it and put it right underneath the bed. It has these bungee cords so that it doesn't use those really loud springs. It's just one of the best things that you can do on a regular basis. And here's what our friend of the show, Ty Bollinger, had to say about specifically jumping up and down and cancer.
What do you do to treat cancer? What do you do to prevent it? Rebounding is something that I try to do on a daily basis. A little mini trampoline for those people that aren't familiar with the term rebounding, but it's basically just jumping up and down on that little mini tramp. What that does is it stimulates the lymphatic system. Lymphatic system is one of our primary detoxification systems in our body, and most folks don't stimulate their lymph flow, and so the toxicity in their body builds up because their lymph is not stimulated, and the up-down motion on a rebounder stimulates the lymph flow better than just about any other exercise. So I do that almost on a daily, probably 5 days a week. I would say I average doing that.
Yeah, likewise, me too. Rebounding has been a big part of my life for the past 8 years. We've had our Bellicon for about 8 years now, and I just had to change the bungees. So these things are built to last. They're awesome. I highly, highly recommend them, and they're just tremendous machines to have around your house, to have, in your office. You can put them anywhere in the house that you want, in your gym, your home gym, anything like that. So I highly recommend, check out, if you guys are watching down below, the Bellicon Rebounder. There's links in the description. I'll also put links in the actual page for this particular show too, which is extremehealthradio.com/666. I got to laugh at that 666 there, but so that'll be available there. And here's a little clip that I wanted to tell you guys about. We're talking about antioxidants, and recently we've done a couple shows with Nathan Walls, who talks a lot about light, water, and magnetism, but we talked with him about molecular hydrogen, and I'm interested to get Dr. Burns' take on that, on molecular hydrogen, because hydrogen, let me bring up this article here there's one from Mind Body Green actually that I want to bring up and share with you guys. It says here on Mind Body Green, this is Mind Body Green. It says here that hydrogen, let me read this. Have you heard of molecular hydrogen? It says here that it is an atom that forms H2 gas in the body, and due to its uniquely small size and mass and neutral charge, it is able to more effectively penetrate not only cell membranes, but also the blood-brain barrier and even the cell nucleus, where it is thought to protect DNA and enhance mitochondrial health. So one of the things it says here, if you guys are watching on YouTube, it says here the antioxidant power, and this is where it's coming into eye health, because it says here it acts as a selective antioxidant targeting only the worst of free radicals, the hydroxy free radical, also known as OH. So when H2, hydrogen, meets OH, H2O happens. In other words, molecular hydrogen elegantly converts the most toxic free radical into water with zero negative byproducts. And it says here, it supports the body's in-house antioxidant system through selective activation of specific cell signaling pathways that are thought to contribute to the regulation of a wide variety of antioxidant, detoxification, and cell survival genes. And so it's really, really fascinating. And listen to what one of our recent guests had to say, Brian Hoyer, about actually, let me bring up Nathan Walls, because what he had to say, I thought was pretty interesting.
Getting healthy sun exposure can do more than any supplement. I do take some supplements. Most of the supplements I take are on the short term. When I fly, I do molecular hydrogen, because that's really a good quencher of free radicals, especially a lot of the free radicals made from EMFs. And when you fly, you get exposed to a whole bunch of EMFs. But here's a hack, because molecular hydrogen is not super cheap, but your body also makes molecular hydrogen. And the best way to do that is by getting infrared light on your gut. So that light, it penetrates into your gut, and your bacteria are able to liberate or pull out molecular hydrogen from your food.
Yeah, it's a super fascinating substance, and we've connected up with a company called Vital Reaction, and they are a really great company. And what they do is they have these machines where you can actually make molecular hydrogen water, but like what he was saying there, it's quite costly. I think it's like $6,000 or $7,000 for a machine. But what they also make is like these little Alka-Seltzer tablets that you can put into your water, which I recommend, and you try out with those and see what you think of it and see what effect it has on your body. And I'm wondering if it helps with eye health as well. So maybe we can get Dr. Burns' take on that. But here's what Brian Hoyer had to say about it as well.
And then there's other mitigation strategies that I'm working.
Whoops. Oh, shoot.
And then there's other mitigation strategies that I'm working on for outdoors, and there's different things you can do to mitigate some of the damage. You know, one of the things that Dr. Mercola recommends is molecular hydrogen, and that's actually been shown to basically mitigate 80% of the damage of free radical peroxynitrate, which stimulates those which is created from the stimulation of those voltage gated calcium ion channels. And so drinking molecular hydrogen when you're acutely exposed to those frequencies can help.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating stuff. And Vital Reaction creates these little tablets that you can buy and purchase. So if you're having eye issues, this might be something to consider. So let me bring Dr. Berne back on the show and see what he has to say about this molecular hydrogen, because apparently it's so small, such a small substance that let me turn his mic back on. So Doc, what do you think about like this super high antioxidant? Do you think this would have any effect on the eyes? We can't say it cures anything, but do you think it has an effect?
I've been following molecular hydrogen for a while, and I'm starting to see some research where it's being used to reverse cataracts, and that they may actually put it in an eye drop, which may help things like dry eye syndrome and other oxidative stress caused conditions. So I think it's a great technique. And I think it could really benefit the eyes. I would just like to see what the delivery system could be, but even just taking it systemically probably would have an effect on our eyes positively. So I'm all for it. I think it's a very interesting technology.
Yeah, the one that we promote from Vital Reaction, like I said, is like a water-based kind of substance that you can put in your water. But you've seen some research where they're able to maybe make some drops out of it and put it topically on the eye?
Yeah. And again, this isn't commercially available, but some researchers have worked with cataracts and created a hypothesis: would this technology help? And the results were very positive. So again, I've made Msm Eyedrops, and that's been incredible. So this would be a whole other level to make molecular hydrogen eye drops. I think it would, just go right to the source of a lot of these oxidative stress-based eye problems.
Yeah, it could be something that you could put together in a formulation, combine those two things. That would be incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Really good.
So
I also wanted to mention about rebounders just for a minute. There's been some studies that rebounders bring down the eye pressure in glaucoma, and it's something that I recommend for people who've been diagnosed with glaucoma. And I've done a lot of videos on the connection between the lymph system and eye health. So I'm right there with you. I think the rebounder is a great activity for improving eye lymph and overall lymph health.
I think so too, because what people talk about it, and it being a cellular exercise, you go to the gym and you can't work out like cells in your body or different areas of your body, like your nose and your eyes and things like that. But jumping up and down it affects every cell in your body, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It impacts the meridians, as you say, the lymph circulation, the cerebral spinal fluid. So, and a lot of people just have lymph chi stagnation. They're not getting enough movement, partly because we're sitting and looking at screens all day.
Our modern culture is so crazy, everything we do. We've got a bunch of questions here in the chat room. Let's take a handful of these. You want to kind of go a little bit rapid fire on some of these in the chat room?
I'll be quick with the answers, but let's see how many we can get in.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's take a look here. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for your questions and also for typing them in the chat in all caps. That way I can see them. I'm going to start with, let's see here. What are the best supplements I can take to reverse vision? Does that make any sense to you?
Reverse vision loss, maybe something's left off there, but
yeah,
generally speaking, there's two ways to go. One is your diet. I think if you can get it through foods, the rainbow diet, fruits and vegetables, antioxidants, anti-inflammatory diet, best way to go. I think if you can work with your naturopathic doctor or functional medicine doctor, get a baseline on what's going on, what you're deficient in. I've tested people. 95% of all folks are deficient in glutathione, as an example. So I'd certainly include that one. your carotenoids, lutein, zeaxanthin, astaxanthin, really important. Fats and oils, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, trace minerals. There are a lot of great supplements on the market, so you just have to look for one that gives you, a really high dosage level in all of these. So you make sure, like for example, with lutein and zeaxanthin, minimum 10 milligrams of lutein per 2 milligrams of zeaxanthin twice a day. Just as an example, 10 to 15 milligrams of astaxanthin a day. But there are a lot of good supplements out there on the market.
Okay. With everything you say, I have so many more questions, so I want to make sure to get through these things. So I'll try to not ask too many questions here. So let's go back to the chat room here. Let's take a look here. Okay, here's a question for someone's father, Big Fat Mama. It's great to see you here again. My father has chronic dry eye and has tried and prescribed eye drops. He can't even cry when onions are placed to his face, and he's not really into eating healthy. So this guy her father has really dry eye.
Mm-hmm. So I would do the Msm Eyedrops with the homeopathic eye drops. I do something called the eye bath, where your eyes are closed, you're lying down on your back, and you spritz the drops along your eyelashes back and forth. So you need to get a high volume of those drops into your eyes, and that will immediately moisturize. Then I would do eye bright tea, brew it up, cool it off, use it as a compress. Eye bright tea is great for dry eye. Get enough fats and oils into your body, reduce your visual stress, use blue blocker lenses. That's a start.
All that stuff. Okay. And here's another one good here. What about those pinhole glasses? Are you a fan of those?
I certainly. And I think pinhole glasses actually, if you can understand how they're making you focus your eyes, and internalize that, they definitely can help you. And also about pinhole glasses, you're using something that doesn't have a lens prescription, so you're not getting the side effects of the lens prescription, but you're getting the clarity. I think it's a great eye exercise. It's just how to translate that into doing it when you take the pinhole glasses off. And that's the trick.
That's the trick. And how often should someone, like my vision is really good. I've always had really good vision. If I wanted to prevent something, would I do pinhole glasses, do you think, once a day just to prevent?
No, what I would do for you is I would do sunning. I would go outside and be in the sun. I would do an open focus exercise called the yin yang peripheral vision exercise to open your vision, but use both eyes together. But pinhole glasses are for people that are really farsighted.
Okay.
They work best for those people because in this, your vision, your focus gets too diffused. And so this teaches you to come back to a more concentrated focus. I don't think you need that. I think that to just open your focus more, here's another technique. Go out into nature and look at a tree, and then invite the tree to look at you. And when you invite the tree to look at you, you immediately open up your peripheral vision and you stop seeking and focusing and looking. And when you live your life by inviting life to look at you, you are in grace and flow in your vision.
Doc, I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I'm so glad because, we talk a lot on this show about how the actual cause of disease, a lot of people think it's just physical or toxins or chemicals, things like that. But there's such a deep spiritual, emotional connection to what shows up and manifests physically in our bodies. And that could be anything from family traumas, physical traumas, anything that you've dealt with in your family line, all of that stuff. And so by saying things like that, it makes me think that you're really, really into that as well. And I think it's a big part of all this, don't you think?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, our eyes are the organ of light. And really, it's how well we take in the light and how well we radiate the light. And when we're in fear, when we're in some focused, obsession, we block the light into our body. And one of the measurements of good health is our radiance of light. People say that to me all the time. Say, how come you're so radiant? I said, well, I practice this. Mm-hmm. And there is a spiritual component to our vision, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is really good. Okay, here's a question here. Let's see. Redness reducing. Oh, Angie, this is great. Redness reducing eye drops. Could the amount they restrict blood flow be very harmful? I'm assuming that is how they work. Redness reducing eye drops.
Yeah. So I would stay away from those. They have vasoconstrictors in it, and it causes the rebound effect. So your eyes are going to get more red. I did a whole video series on negative eye drops. Basically, everything you go in the pharmacy is going to dry your eyes and make them red. So you want to look for preservative-free eye drops, homeopathic eye drops, Msm Eyedrops, and those are therapeutic. Those are going to improve the circulation, the moisturization, increase cell permeability. But stay away from these redness-reducing eye drops. They have chemicals in them that are going to make your eyes worse. Use more natural eye drops if you can.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, so let me look here. So what are some of the worst foods? I've heard over the years that like fried foods, for example, are really bad for the eyes. I don't know why this person said that years ago, but what are some of the worst foods people could eat that damages their eyes, you think?
I think foods with trans fats in them, fried foods, as you say, processed foods, foods with GMO, dead foods, basically. So anything in the fast food area, whatever we're saying about the eyes, you're saying about the whole body. You want to eat the most live, plant-based foods that you can, because your eyes need those nutrients so much. They're so starved for it. So, it's basically common sense. You want to just stay away from these highly processed foods. Sugar, foods with sugar in them, that's another one. And the dyes and the chemicals. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, not so good. Miss Hill says here, how diabetes can cause eye vision to get blurry and lead to blindness. So the connection between diabetes, eye vision, and blindness, which you kind of touched on a little bit, right?
Yeah, so the retina is made up of a sea of microcapillaries, tiny blood vessels. And when you have diabetes, one of the first places that it attacks is these microcapillaries in the retina. And so you start getting hemorrhaging. And so it's really important that one of the best herbs for the eyes to improve the microcapillaries is bilberry. And so you want to make sure you're getting a lot of antioxidants, obviously, and eating a diet where your glucose levels are controlled. I just did another video on the difference between low glycemic and high glycemic index foods, and how high glycemic index foods can cause more incidence of diabetic retinopathy and other retinopathies. So pay attention to your sugar as it relates to your eyes. Critically important.
Yes, definitely. Okay, let's take another question here. Simirit says, my children have astigmatism. Is there any way to fix that? That's a good question.
Yeah, so astigmatism means a twist in the eye, but it's also a twist in the body. So I would go to your doctor and say if you can get a prescription without the astigmatism and start wearing it. And I would also get some body work, some craniosacral therapy to unwind the body. But I'm very successful at helping people reduce astigmatism because it's a body-centered twisting that is corrected in the eye. And once you correct astigmatism in the eye, it locks the body in to have its twist, whether it's scoliosis or other things. So remember I said in the first segment, any prescription in the eye is also in the body, and astigmatism is one of those examples.
What do you make of those sort of Chinese doctors that can look at your iris and they look at your eyes and they can tell you all about what's going on with your body? I'm starting to see some science behind that now, and I'm starting to hear people talk about that, not just from a kind of a woo-woo perspective, but I'm hearing people talk about the actual science behind correlating these things in your eye to actual things that are going on. What do you make of that?
Well, there is something called the RAID method, which looks at the iris and connects it to systemic and metabolic health. And I think there's something to it. I think the eyes are a portal that can show us different, body-centered patterns, whether it's, more emotional, spiritual, toxicity related. So, I always say that the eyes reflect what's going on systemically and metabolically. And I think if these people are trained well, I think they can offer a service that can open the door about telling us about our health.
Mm-hmm. Another question here, does dietary sulfur in oral MSM have any much or anywhere near the same benefit as doing the localized eye drops with MSM in it?
it has some of the same benefits, but the thing about using the topical MSM, you are targeting those tissues in the eye that are screaming for help, collagen health, and moisturization and lowering inflammation. So doing both of those, I think, is important. But boy, those MSM eye drops they're hot, 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 and they're amazing in what they're offering people. Some of my patients, you'll read on the testimonial on my website, they're getting rid of floaters. They're reducing dry eye syndrome. MSM has been proven to be very beneficial for our body.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up your website right here for people that are interested watching on YouTube. And it shows here, those drops that you have, are they available? Like, do you have different drops for, let me go to your shop here, for glaucoma versus cataracts, or are they the same kind of drops for everything?
Well, with the FDA and what's going on, you can't really say that this is treating that condition.
Yeah.
I am talking about it more in wellness. However, if you go to the learn part of my website, it will take you to a page that lists all the go to eye exercise protocols.
There we go.
And you'll see that there's a list of eye diseases on the right side. And so I've created physical eye therapy programs and tons of free videos which talk about the different nutrients with each condition. So you get a lot of content here in terms of podcasts that I do where people ask questions, and then the video blogs. People love the video blogs.
That's cool.
And so that this is a way they can learn how to take better care of their vision. And I'm staying away with this drop treats that symptom.
Right. I guess I forgot there's this thing called the FDA for like 30 seconds when I asked that question. You can't say that.
The rules there, so that I can keep up this great content. So I stay away from that. But if people watch my videos, they'll know exactly what to eat, what to do, what exercises to do. But we're not getting into treating disease on the internet.
Can't do that. That'll get us in trouble. So what are eye floaters? What are they?
So basically, the floaters are created in the vitreous gel. That's the gel-like part of the sac of the eye, in the back of the eye. And the collagen begins to dry out and shrink, and the protein flakes break off from the vitreous gel, and this is the cause of floaters. So it's related a lot to collagen shrinkage, oxidative stress, blue light pollution. And if you improve your collagen health, you use the MSM eye drops. Also, the liver is very related to the vitreous. You do a detox, you can have some success at reversing floaters. And it's a reflection, again, of an imbalance going on in the eye circulation and the eye health. And if you go to a regular eye doctor, they basically say, well, just watch it. There's nothing to do about it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I've heard floaters, related to parasites or heavy metals or calcium deposits, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and dental amalgams. I did a video on the relationship between dental amalgams and floaters, root canals and floaters. So, and as you say, parasites and other conditions like this, head trauma, this can all trigger floaters. Absolutely.
All right, we've got a couple more minutes, so I want to make sure that we're cognizant of Dr. Berne's time here. So, Dr. Berne, let's do a couple more questions, and we'll just do super quick, if you're okay with that, because I got some really great questions in the chat room here. Is it possible to reverse farsightedness?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, on my website, I have a whole eye clarity 90-day program on how to reduce farsightedness. One of the things I like to do is have people wear reverse prescription glasses. So if they're farsighted, they wear the nearsighted glasses while they're doing the exercises, and that rebalances the focusing muscles. So I have a lot of techniques to reverse farsightedness. And think of it as physical therapy for the eyes, where you're reprogramming the brain and the eyes to move away from the habit of the lenses you were given by the eye doctor. That's only going to make your eyes worse.
Awesome. Okay, cool. What can your eyes tell you about heart disease, if anything?
Sure. When you look at the retinal vessels in the eye, you're getting a snapshot on what your overall circulation is, even things like hypertensive retinopathy and high blood pressure. So the eyes, as I say, they look into your future health, and they can tell you what's going on in terms of your overall circulation, health, cardiovascular, immune system. I can see a lot of things that could be predicted when I look into somebody's eyes, and so the eyes really they're an indicator.
Interesting. Okay, we've got Brian Riley says, would you please ask your guest about sun gazing to to reverse poor eyesight? Is sun gazing effective, and what are the mechanics as to how this might work? Thank you.
Well, it's variable based on your the color of your iris and how sensitive you are to light to begin with. For somebody like you doing sun gazing, it sounds like you're a pro at it. So you can be a little more aggressive with it. But when we do sun gazing, we start off with the eyes closed, and we just get used to having the sun touch our eyelids, and we still get the benefits of the sun with the eyelids closed. Start slow, go easy. Again, the sun light is a food, and it does affect our endocrine system, our nervous system, and our vision. So doing sun gazing in a protected way where you're just going slowly can be very beneficial for your eyes and your health.
Mm-hmm. Final question here from the chat room from Supper Soul Gear. That's a great name. What about omega-3s for dry eyes?
Yes. So on my website, I did a video on a research study with women who used omega-3 fatty acids, and over a 16-week period, they reduced their dry eye syndrome symptoms quite a bit. So that, coupled with getting some really good eye drops in your eyes, estrogen, sometimes low or high estrogen can be an indicator of dry eye. Thyroid imbalance, indicator of dry eye. So you have to look at a lot of different factors, but certainly omega-3 would be something I would include.
Well, Dr. Berne, we covered quite a lot of questions. We kind of jumped around a little bit after the break, but thanks you so much for being on today.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you, and keep putting it out there what you're doing. I love what you're doing, and I just feel so honored to be on your show. Thank you so much, and maybe we'll talk and meet each other in the future.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great, because one of our things that we like to do is to feature amazing people like you that are out there helping people. And one of my biggest, I guess, things that sort of upsets me is that people get their information from one source, and maybe their doctor, or maybe it's just TV and the news or something, and people don't realize there's people like you out there. Like, I don't know how you could not know that there's someone like you out there in 2019 with Google, but there are people that just take what the doctors tell them, and they go for the surgery, they go for the drugs, and it ends up costing them, you know?
Oh, big time. So come visit me on social media. I do a Facebook Live Q&A every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. It's free. And interact with my website, because I have a lot of great content we're pushing out there, and it's all free. It's all available to you.
Awesome. Yeah, and I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, so you're doing a lot of stuff there and meeting with people and answering questions. That's awesome.
Yeah. Definitely give back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doc. You're amazing. I'll be in contact via email with the link to this, and I appreciate your time and energy, and hopefully we help some people today.
Yeah, I think we did. All right.
Awesome.
Take care, and thank you.
Thanks, Doc.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go, guys. Dr. Sam Berne. I hope you guys enjoyed that. A lot of cool questions. I had to kind of skim through the questions in the chat room. I apologize for that, but I wanted to sort of ask him questions that were within his realm of expertise, I should say. So if I didn't get to your question, I apologize for that. There's a lot of sort of different kind of questions. One of them was about omega-3. And, Big Fat Mama, he said, what is his take on the DHA form that Jack and Nathan talk about being in the SN2 position? I should have asked that question. I apologize for that. But you know what? After the interview that we just did on our YouTube channel, episode 665, I think, with Nathan, what he's saying about the SN2 position being paramagnetic, I think the whole key is in that. And I don't know, I'm not an expert, and I don't spend my days and hours researching these things, but I have a gut feeling there's something really key about that SN2 position because of the fact that it's paramagnetic and it attaches using magnetism in our body. And I think that is what Nathan would say as well. So very interesting show, guys. And this is one of the things, like I mentioned to Sam before we left, that this is one of my missions in life, is to bring to the forefront people like him that are helping people, that are actually out there doing things. Because I don't know about you, but like I said before, my mom is going through macular degeneration. My mom's got a lot of issues right now with her health. But when she goes to the doctor about macular degeneration, the fear that's given to people like that is like, it's unbelievable, the amount of fear that the doctors, I don't think they knowingly do it. Do you guys think they knowingly do this? Some people might say they knowingly do it in order to sell you their services, and that's entirely possible. I mean, I don't know how many doctors you've been seen over the course of your life that have used fear to try to get you to do something, but it's entirely possible. And so this is what I want to bring to the forefront, is just this idea that that we are beings that can heal ourselves, and we are beings that are fearfully and wonderfully made, as it says in the Bible. And I think it's really important to understand that and to realize, like, we can and we do have the right to heal. Let me bring up a really cool machine that I use every single day. And I'm telling you guys, if you're new to our work, or if you haven't invested in something like a relaxed far infrared sauna before, this is one of my go-to tools. I use this thing just about every single day. And with all of the sort of assaults on our immune system that are happening in today's culture, with 5G, with toxicities, chemicals, poisons. I mean, Dr. Senef was saying that glyphosate is now being found in tire dust and in our atmosphere, in the air. So we're being sprayed with chemicals from the sky. We've got acid rain, chemicals everywhere. And it's my opinion that we're not going to be able to achieve any kind of level of health unless we increase the detoxification pathways of our body. And we do things on a regular basis that allow us to get rid of these chemicals and environmental toxins that are being introduced into our environment. And I've mentioned this many times before on our show. A study I read recently, I should find that study, but it was talking about over 60,000 new chemicals introduced into our environment. That's not counting food, since the early 1960s. Now, how do we get these things out of our body? Well, they store themselves in our fat cells, and one of the places they store in our lymphatic fluid, in different parts of the body. And when your body becomes gummed up and exposed to too much toxins, it doesn't work correctly. And this is a really, really powerful way of getting these things out. What I love about the relaxed far infrared sauna, my biggest thing, is that it's portable, so that you can lend it to a friend. You can set it up and break it down in less than 5 minutes. You can lend it to a friend, like I said, and it heats up like instantly. Like, you don't have to preheat it. It doesn't take all this energy, and you have to waste all this, high electrical bills in your home to preheat this thing for 30 minutes. You turn it on and you jump in and you're sweating. At least I am, in about between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the time of year. And I also like, probably the biggest benefit that I like about this thing is that your head sticks out of it. I don't know about you, but whenever I would go into like a wooden sauna and I'd go in there and my head would be in there, I just get bored. Like, I'll do some stretching, I'll bring a book, but then I can't really read inside there because I get too tired because I'm so hot. So I'm basically just staring at the wall, just looking at my watch, waiting for time to pass, and it's just not fun. I'm always someone that I just love to watch documentaries or movies or YouTube videos and things like this. And when your head is out, you can do that. And so every time I go in my sauna, I set up, it's like a little spa day with me, and I watch a documentary, and it's just an incredible tool. From an Ayurvedic perspective, it's also better to not heat the head as well. Not sure exactly why. I should look into that, but I've heard that said from multiple people over the years. And so this is the very, very low EMF sauna, and it uses far infrared heat, which allows the waves of the the light. It's actually a light, but it's not visible to the eye. And so what it does is it allows those rays of light to penetrate deeper into your bones. So it heats you up. It gets to about 160 degrees. So it's not too hot, but it heats you up at the core level, and it raises your body temperature, which increases the speed of your immune system, increases heat shock proteins, which also enhances your one of the arms of your immune system. It's a tremendous tool for detoxification, for skin health, for longevity. Dr. Rhonda Patrick has cited some studies saying that people who use the sauna 4 to 7 times per week have a 40% decrease in all-cause mortality from doing sauna therapy 4 to 7 times a week. It's pretty amazing. So I'm just a big fan of these things. I use mine every single day. I've been using it for about probably 7-8 years now. And if you were to measure all of the sweat that I've sweated out of my body from using this thing, it's probably gallons by this point. So, and in all of that sweat, according to the environmental working group, it's an outfit out of Texas. We just interviewed some people, but they actually measure the toxins and chemicals in people's fat cells, and sauna therapy helps to get rid of that. So it's a tremendous thing. And one thing I wanted to let you guys know too, something I haven't mentioned before, is that if you purchase any of the products through our store, we will give you a 30-day free trial to the Extreme Health Academy. So I wanted to tell you guys about that. So many of you guys have been taking us up on that, which I appreciate. And that way you can get access to our more advanced community inside there, and you can check that out. So big fan of the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. I'm a big proponent of it. Use it every single day, and I can't promote that thing enough. I love it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that show with Dr. Sam Berne. You know what? One thing we might do is I might see if he would be willing to do maybe a workshop or something for our Extreme Health Academy members, and to dive into even more detail about some of the things that we talked about on today's show. I think that would be really, really cool. Maybe do a whole eye workshop, like a live workshop with him. I think that would be really cool. So Plant-Based Kate says, I joined the YMCA specifically to use their sauna. Their gym is a bonus, I suppose. That's awesome. That is awesome. If you can't afford or don't have the money freed up right now for a sauna, like this one here that I'm mentioning is one of the cheaper ones, on the market, because this one I think is like $1,000 or $1,100, or I think it's $1,195, but some of the other ones are like $6,000, and some of them are like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and it gets into a lot of money. And personally, if someone gave me one of those, I would still use the Relax Far Infrared Sauna. I just love it that much. Plant-Based Kate, you're only human, Justin. You're doing a great service for us. Well, I appreciate it. That's one of the things I thought would be important to have a guy like him on, because I think it's so important to let people know that people like him exist. Like I was mentioning at the end of the show, it makes me sad when people don't realize that there's counter options and there's things that people can do alternatively after going to their doctor. And their doctor makes it seem like whatever they're telling them is the gospel truth, and it encapsulates 100% of the knowledge that's out there. And unfortunately, it really only encapsulates about 10% of all the knowledge that's out there. But they do a very good job in selling you the idea that they are the authority figures, and that what they're saying is encapsulates all of the knowledge that exists in the world. And unfortunately, fortunately for us, that's not the case. They do a good job in sort of brainwashing you and manipulating you into thinking that if it's not something that they know about, that it's no good, or it doesn't have efficacy, or it doesn't have a viable track record with double-blind studies and placebo effects and things like that. So that's one of the things I love to do, is to bring people on here that have great empowering information that aren't going to be selling you fear. Like that, there's a really great book called Selling Sickness I read years ago, and that's what they do. The pharmaceutical industries. It's my position that we created all of this stuff in our culture today, and we're a part of its creation, and we chose to live during a time where these power structures exist, and it's up to us to develop the sort of the traits and the characteristics within ourselves to be able to overcome those influences. And so I think it's all by design. I think it's all by purpose. And we chose to be here for a particular reason, and we're here for that reason. So Bob says here, I went to the doctor and explained all about a pain I had and where it was and what it felt like and all of it, and thought he would give me good feedback, and he told me to take ibuprofen. Yeah, if you're a doctor in today's world, if you're a medical doctor in today's world, that would be a profession that I would steer clear from for multiple reasons. One is you're not going to really help people being a medical doctor. You're going to be a pharmaceutical salesman. And unfortunately, they don't realize that until it's too late and they've invested in their schooling. The other thing is, too, somewhere along the way, doctors will typically grow accustomed to the sort of lifestyle they've built. The problem with that is that the economy today, you can make more money doing other things, and then the amount that it costs to go to school, to medical school, is so exorbitant that you got to pay back your loans for 20 years before you can even draw a profit really from being a doctor. And then the third reason I wouldn't want to be a doctor is because the patient today is an informed patient because we have Google and the internet. So if I were a doctor and I had multiple patients come to me and say, hey, I reverse my glaucoma, or I reverse my macular degeneration using some of the therapies Dr. Jack Kruse talks about or Dr. Sam Berne talks about with natural light and substances and things like that. If I were a doctor and I had multiple people tell me that, I would look into those people. I'd say, okay, what's this guy's name? Dr. Jack Kruse, Dr. Sam Berne, Dr. Ed Condrot. There's a lot of great natural eye doctors out there, right? I'd write them down. I'd go home and search these guys out. And I'd start getting into their work. And then I would start realizing really quickly that what I'm doing is damaging people. So that's why I couldn't be a viable doctor, because I care too much about what's actually helping or harming people. And I couldn't go through my practice. But there's a real crux with people like that. It's because when you're in that case and you've got 3 homes, you've got tax debt, you've got mortgages, you've got employees, you've got a whole building that you have to pay for and maintain. You've got staff, you've got health insurance to maintain, you've got college debt and all of these things and overhead, massive overhead. Just running a doctor's office, and the amount of time, effort, and energy that you put in for 30 years becoming what you are today, namely a doctor, you put so much work in that when someone comes and tells you about someone like Dr. Sam Berne or Dr. Ed Condrot or Dr. Jack Kruse or something like that, you're closed off to it because you can't imagine that there's a way to fix people's problems that don't include any of the stuff that you've done. And really what it shows to a doctor like that is like, I made a wrong choice. But many times, unfortunately, a lot of medical doctors are very egotistical and they don't want to admit those things. But I suspect that when they go to bed at night and they start thinking about their life and their practice and what's helping people and what's hurting people, I think they really do think. So that's the issue with being a doctor today. Informed patients would really drive me crazy because at some point I'd have to look into if I had a patient that was coming in and saying, if I had like 10 patients that said Dr. Sam Berne cured me or whatever it is, this substance or this lifestyle practice or whatever cured me, then I would either look into it or get very upset and angry. And unfortunately, the common response is for doctors to get very upset and angry because part of their whole MO, their marching orders from the beginning was this complete acceptance to the medical model and never having looked into where it came from and the role of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds in the creation of the medical model. And so unfortunately, you just feel stupid if you are a doctor and you realize you've been harming people for 30 years. And so it's a challenging thing. It's really, really challenging thing. And so part of our mission is to bring people like this to the forefront so that you guys can learn and just realize there's options out there for you. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that show. A couple little things that I want to let you guys know about is a couple of our upcoming shows. We have on Monday, Mike Goldberg, Preventing Chronic Disease. That'll be a good show next Monday. Next Wednesday, we have Amy Prohl. She's a PhD. Now, I mentioned her at the beginning of the show. She is a fascinating woman. And we've already done one show with her. And she gets into the gut microbiome, but not just that, the microbiome of the entire body and how these bacteria and organisms communicate with one another, and how that relates to chronic diseases like Lyme disease. And we talked, I think, a little bit in our first show about using low-dose naltrexone and the Marshall protocol for Lyme disease. Dr. Trevor Marshall, I think he's a doctor. Is he a doctor? I think he's a doctor. Dr. Trevor Marshall is a pretty controversial and unique way of treating Lyme disease. It's getting a lot of results. And so Amy is just a certified genius. She's amazing. Then Alan Phillips next Friday, and he's suing. Isn't this crazy? He's suing the North Carolina State Bar. That's so rad. That's so rad, over vaccines and laws surrounding them. So that's going to be cool. So a lot of cool stuff happening on our show. Jason Prahl's coming up. We're going to get him in studio. I think he's down in Carlsbad, California. We'll talk with him. And then Matt Maruca, the founder of Raw Optics. We sell their blue blocking glasses in our store. I'm telling you guys, one of the best things that you could ever do for your health is blocking blue light. Not just for your eyes, but for every disease and for every organ of your entire body. Make sure to block blue light. These glasses that I'm wearing here are from a company called Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX. And we've had Andy Mann on the show a couple times and really support him and his work. These are the glasses that I wear. And then I wear Matt Maruca's Raw Optics in the evening as well. A big fan of what he's doing. And we're going to talk about the light diet next in a couple weeks here with him. So that's going to be cool. Hopefully we can get him in studio. And then this will be a cool show. Janice Barcelo, she's been on the show before. The dangers of prenatal ultrasound and all technologies that use non-ionizing radiation. She was a fireball. We had her on the show before, and she talked about hospital births. And oh my goodness, you got to listen to that show. Maybe we'll put her on iTunes tonight. That might be a good show to bring back into the feed so that you guys can listen to that one again. Man, that show was intense. And then we also have Naudi, I forget his last name. We're going to talk about functional movement and addressing success and movement through pain and through movement. And so that's going to be a really cool show, optimal movement patterns for human beings. So got a lot of cool stuff happening on our show. Hope you guys are enjoying everything that we're doing. Thank you so much for your support over the years. You guys are amazing. I just really appreciate you guys a lot, and supporting us by going through our Amazon link, supporting us financially that way. If you buy on Amazon, I appreciate you going through our homepage. There's a Amazon link down at the bottom. For those of you that are patrons, we appreciate that a lot. You can send in a couple dollars a month, and that really is tremendous for helping us pay the bills. Like, for example, the internet that we have here in the studio, I think is it's $300 a month because we get the super fast internet. And then the office here is like $800 a month. And so, the costs add up with these shows. And so, when you support us by going through our Amazon link and being a Patreon or going through our store, it really helps us a lot. So, somehow we've been able to do it, and you guys are amazing, helping fund the show and keep everything free so that everyone can get access to this stuff. It's really great. Mehmet says, I wonder how on earth it's possible to air TV ads for prescription drugs in the U.S. which recommended patients to tell their doctors to prescribe for that drug. Yeah, that all happened, I think, in the mid to late 90s is when somehow some legislation was repealed that allowed pharmaceutical companies to sort of open the floodgates of advertising on national TV. And now you have these 3 or 4 minute commercials where people are telling, or the pharmaceutical companies are telling people to go check with your doctor, right? Go talk to your doctor. This is where they suck you in, because you go talk to your doctor and you're going to get fear. You're going to get all this talk about the benefits of how these drugs can affect your physiology. it's a dark circle, man. I'm telling you guys, it's really a dark industry. This whole pharmaceutical industry, the medical model, it's a dark industry. It's really dark, and it's really cryptic, and it's really damaging and dangerous, and I think evil and satanic, because what they're trying to do is to make money off of you in every way possible. And the sicker you are, the more money they can make off of you. I mean, is it any wonder that, over 120,000 people a year die by taking the correct medication at the correct time and in the right way? Over 120,000 people a year die from that. There was a recent study that was cited in a book that was saying that your doctor is, I think, 8 to 10 times more dangerous than owning a gun. Doctors, unfortunately, medical malpractice. I can't tell you how much I've seen where doctors are knowingly diagnosing people with cancers who don't have cancer, putting them through chemotherapy, radiation, just to get a kickback for that. It's sad. It's a sad thing. And if you are involved right now in the trap of seeing a doctor on a regular basis, do what you can to take charge of your health so that you can extract yourself from that process. And what you might want to do is start asking lots of questions to your doctor, because doctors don't like questions. The person that asks the question is in control, and the person that asks the question is the person that's in power. Because if you break down the word asking, it's like you're as king, right? The subjects to the king are the one that have to give responses, right? The subjects are the ones that have to reply to what the king asks. Did you do this? Did you do that? What was your results? What did you do for me? Blah, blah, blah. The king is the one that asks the question. That's why it's ask king. But the subject is the one that has to answer the questions and has to have all the answers. And that's a position of inferiority. And so when you ask questions to your doctor, you watch he'll squirm right away because he doesn't like it, because he hasn't looked at all the research. And not to bag on doctors, they don't have time to do research. They just don't have time. And I don't blame them. I mean, they got caught in a system that they got manipulated, and they got bullied, and they got programmed and brainwashed to think that their system is the only system that works. And unfortunately, they bought into that lie, and they've carried down that path for 20, 30 years. And now they're living a life that's entirely based around the belief in the system. And now you're coming and questioning that. And, it really takes an open-minded person and someone who's a real seeker, and someone who actually really wants to help people to question their beliefs. What does it really take to question our beliefs? Think about that. I mean, think about the most deep-seated, strongly held belief that you have, and what does it take to actually question those beliefs? That's a deep spiritual exercise that you could go down. Is what does it take to actually question our beliefs? For a lot of people, it's experience. For a lot of people, it's other people's experience. For a lot of people, it's simply just learning. Some people just have a naturally open mind where they can look at this stuff and kind of just question the mainstream, information, no matter what they say, whether it's about health or politics or religion or spirituality or economics or history or any of that stuff. Some people just are designed and built that way. That's how I am. I just question everything, even if it's a natural doctor, even if it's a guy, doing natural things or alternative this or that. I just question everything, because when you start realizing that, it's not your belief that's linked to you, like you are not your belief. When you start realizing that, then beliefs can come and go. You don't have to hold on to a belief like it's part of who you are. You can just let it, belief go. And beliefs are there to serve us, like a tool would be, like a hammer would be to a construction person. A belief is a tool to get you from A to B. And when you can change your beliefs, and whenever when you've built that house and you don't need that hammer anymore, then you can let that belief go. Right? So when we're not attached to those beliefs, and we don't think that the hammer is us, we think that we're the one using that hammer to build the house. And the same way a belief is, we don't have to realize the belief is us, then we can just let a belief go and it doesn't affect us in any way. So I think it's really important to hold these things lightly and to really understand that these things are not a part of who we are, and constantly be looking at things that we can do to enhance our beliefs and open our mind, and to go down that journey, and to go down that rabbit trail, and be open and have the courage to do that in light of what everyone else is saying around us. And so I think it's really important to do that. And so that's what our show is all about. We touch on spirituality. We touch on emotions, emotional traumas. We touch on family history and family traumas. We touch on light, water, and magnetism, the biophysics of why that's probably one of the most important things that you could do. We like to talk about oral health and how many people are missing the connection between oral health and our overall disease. We talk about cleansing, detox, diet, fitness, functional moving patterns, lifestyle design, all that kind of good stuff. So if you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned with everything we have going on. One thing I would recommend that you guys do is to follow us on Instagram. If you can, there's a link in the YouTube description down below to our Instagram account. And we post a lot of cool stuff on there, our family, what we do during the day, and a lot of stuff regarding the shows. That way you make sure you don't miss anything. Subscribe to our newsletter too. That way you don't miss anything that we have going on. That's the best place. If you go to our website, there's links all over for our newsletter. We send those out every Monday and Thursday, and make sure to do that. So yeah, make sure to subscribe also on iTunes. We're also on iHeartRadio now and Spotify, and Stitcher and all the other Google Play and all that kind of cool stuff. So if you subscribe there, we do a show every single day. So this is 666, this episode. So what we do is we release a couple shows per week that are new. And then on the other 5 days of the week is some of our archived shows, best of content. So that way you get a show 7 days a week that you probably had never heard of. So for you, they could be all brand new shows. And so that's our way of just putting out as much free content as possible. So I really appreciate you guys. You are amazing. It's just such an honor to be here and to do this show. You guys are just incredible. Thank you for your support over the years. Without your support, we couldn't do this show. So we really appreciate it. And it's so much fun seeing all of you guys in the chat room. Big Fat Mama, Mehmet, Plant-Based Kate, Bob Dylan. Great to see you here again. Darren, 6907. Angie, it's always great to see you here as well. Claudia, it's always amazing to see you here. And you're an animal. Great to have you here as well. I love it when you're here. Brian, Tara, Sarah, Supper, Soul Gear, Thandy, Eric, Anthony. All you guys are amazing. Catherine, Callie, you guys are just so cool. Sheila, Rebecca, you guys are awesome. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you very, very much. Share our shows, tag us on Instagram, share it with a friend, repost, and share this show with your friends. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday at 10:45 Pacific.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use, or misuse